Japan is one of the best travel destinations in the world. As a tourist, you get the best version of Japan. Great customer service, fun experiences, and no responsibilities. But if you're thinking of living and working there, the experience can be quite different. Many foreigners who have lived and worked in Japan say that Japan isn't as perfect as it seems from the outside. So in this video, I will share key challenges they often talk about. As a tourist, you can get by with minimal Japanese. Signs are in English and many places cater to foreigners. But when you live there, it's a different story. To do basic things like renting an apartment, visiting the doctor, or handling paperwork at the city office, you will need a good grasp of Japanese. Even if you study Japanese, becoming truly fluent takes years, and without fluent conversational Japanese, daily life can feel so isolating. One major risk that many tourists don't think or don't have to think about is Japan's frequent natural disasters, such as earthquakes, typhoons, even tsunamis are a real part of life over there. Japan experiences thousands of small earthquakes every year, and experts warn that a mega earthquake, known as the Nankai Trail earthquake, could happen anytime in the coming decades. And if it happens, it could cause massive destruction, especially in regions like Tokyo and Osaka, which are very densely populated. And although most buildings are earthquake resistant and Japan is very well prepared, but for people like us or from Singapore, we may not have that kind of preparation mentally and physically. This is something that anyone who wants to live there need to think about. Japan is known for its hardworking culture, but for many foreigners, this is one of the toughest parts of living there. First is the notorious long working hours. It's common for employees to stay late and sometimes even after finishing their work because they can't leave before their boss does. Then we have the after work drinking culture. They call it the nomikai. There's often pressure to attend company drinking sessions with the superiors. And they also have strict hierarchy. Age and seniority often matter more than performance when it comes to promotions and workplace relationships. So if you hate the boomers in Singapore, I think you will hate the boomers in Japan 3 times more. And there's a lot of unspoken expectations, such as expecting to conform to the company culture and making it difficult for some foreigners to adapt. But of course, some foreigners manage to adjust, but many will struggle with the rigid system or will take a long time to get used to it. Next is about fitting in. One of the most surprising things for foreigners is that no matter how long you live in Japan, you may never fully fit in. So even half Japanese individuals, right, sometimes feel that they are not seen as true Japanese. And even if you can speak Japanese fluently, you have an Asian face, locals may still see you as an outsider. So many foreigners say they feel welcome, yes, but not fully accepted. So it can be hard to form deep friendships beyond those surface level interactions. And speaking about cost of living, Japan seems cheap for tourists, especially with the depreciating yen, and you can buy tax-free stuff. But when you live there, the real cost may become quite apparent. So they have high taxes, their pension contributions are quite high as well. It's similar to CPF, just that you cannot use it to buy property. And all these living expenses will add up. And the problem is not so much about the cost of things, it's more about the wages. The wages in many industries are much lower than in the Western countries, including Singapore as well. So if you plan to live in a major city like Tokyo, where the cost of living is higher, the salaries may not match the expenses. So although Singapore is one of the world's most expensive city to live in, but because of the wages and if you're very selective in your spending, you can still save and build wealth over time. But in Japan, it can be quite challenging if you are a salaryman. Japan is supposed to be a very high-tech country, very modern, but surprisingly, many of its official processes are still outdated. Many businesses and government offices still rely on fax machine, even in 2025. And you will need a hanko, which is the stamp, for official documents instead of just signing on papers. So if you are someone who are very used to the efficient way of doing things, where everything you can get things done online, and a strong believer in digitalization, Japan may disappoint you in this area. They have a culture of, if these things still work, why change it? And everyone is used to it. We don't change for the sake of changing. So that's their kind of mentality. So despite these challenges, my family and I have still decided to move to Japan. While some of these concerns do apply to us as well, others don't. For example, we won't be working in Japanese companies, but will instead be starting a business there. And the language barrier will definitely be a challenge, and that's our top priority, to learn Japanese as quickly as possible. As for fitting in, I don't expect to ever feel Japanese. I'm very clear about my identity, and I will respect the social norms and the cultural expectations. I will try to fit in as much as possible. Having said that, my biggest concern is actually my kids, because they grew up in Singapore for the first few years, and now they will be educated in Japan. They might struggle with identity issues. So we will do our best to help them adjust and also remind them that we are all global citizens. So in conclusion, I acknowledge the good things about Singapore, just like what I mentioned in my previous video. And I also recognize the challenges of living in Japan. But we believe Japan has a lot to offer, and for us, the positives outweigh the difficulties. So if you are interested in our journey, do subscribe to my channel. I'll be sharing as much of this process as possible. See you in the next video.